So this is a production meeting. It's our weekly Thursday meeting. Today is the 19th September 2024. So this is the NRT Carbon Cartoon Project. So welcome. I'm glad you're here, Afan. At least we can discuss a bit of your work, which we haven't seen yet, but we need to agree on what needs to be done. So one of the things, the three things that I'd like us to discuss today is what is the state of the work, where have we reached, what needs to be done, and when do we need to do it by? Okay. Now, needless to say, the job is already behind time, and the client is now complaining because of the time. They've invested money and effort, and they have other activities that this one depends on. So they really want us to clear. So we're very much behind, and we need to give them a solid schedule that we can stick to. All right. But it's almost like we have this shot at making the client accept what we're doing, or they could also feel that you're too late and they just cancel the whole thing. So we need to work in a way that we can commit something and produce it within this time frame that we say now. And it needs to be having weekly deliverables. All right. That's what I'd like this meeting to be about. So it's not a long meeting. It's just for us to know where we are. Okay. Before I ask you, Alban, maybe to share where you've reached on this, and Jake, let me share my screen and share with you the work that I've done, which had been delayed also. I have also been quite late on a pre-visualization in order for us to harmonize the production work. So I'll just share that now. Okay, so this is the Google Drive folder, which we're familiar with. I'll make it slightly closer. And you all have the link to this. It's the NRT production folder. And I'm not doing any layouts, partly because, when we're rotoscoping, we don't need layouts, but I've left that out. But the pre-visualized files are now here inside this pre-visualized folder. This is what had held up Act 2 and Act 3. If you double click on it, I'm just going into it now, you'll see 3 videos. There's the Act 1, version 2 of the pre-visualization. There's Act 2 and Act 3. These are 3 pre-visualizations that we've done. I'll show them to you just now so that you can appreciate what is there and what needs to be worked on. But I want to say this. The way we work with these, and this helps us to work quickly, is to underlay them in our timeline on harmony. When you underlay them, you can trace over them. They're only a guide, really. They're not giving you information on wardrobe. Wardrobe, you go according to your character. Okay? Your character is what will tell you the dress code of what you have. But these actors will help us to get the movement to be fluid without keyframing, without in-betweening. And that's the whole idea. If you understand that, then they become a useful guide. Okay? But they're only for movement. The character, the expressions on the character, and the lip syncing, the actual speaking, that comes from us. But the movement comes from the guide. That's what these pre-visualizations do. Now, you can work with the MP4 if you want to work with that. The only thing is that the MP4 has transitions. So when there's a transition taking place, like a crossfade, you may not see the information. But obviously, that's the end of the sequence. You can easily draw those in. But if you don't want to work from that, you can work from the original file inside renders. There's Act 1, 2, and 3. So if I go to Act 2, you'll see all the scenes inside here. So the AVIs are the movie files. Okay, they're like movie files. If you go into this one, you'll see a list here of movies, AVI. Let me just admit someone. Hi, Alfan. I'm just going through the folder and I'm showing on the NRT production folder online in the drive where all the files exist. I've completed the pre-visualization for Act 2 and for Act 3. So you'll see the AVI files here. In total, each scene, no, each act has roughly 24 panels. So they have about 24 AVIs. So these are the raw files that went into making the pre-visualization. Now you can work with these because these are more precise in terms of exactly what needs to be drawn. You can work with these AVIs. But AVI may not be acceptable in, let's say, Harmony. I don't know. I've never been able to export or import an AVI into Harmony. But you can, AVI is quite universal. You can save as a different format and like MP4 and then import that. But these are raw, so you can work with these. And they're accurate, so you can work with them for accuracy. And if you find that you'd much rather work frame by frame, I exported frame by frames here, these ones, which are in color. So you'll see we're going to watch the pre-visualization just now, but these ones are in color. They, I mean, they show you the frames, like panel 3, frame 0 to frame 154. So you will know what exactly you have to do. This is what we're looking at now. I'm just opening it. These are all different files, and they are PNGs, which means that they have transparent backgrounds. And you can use these to track your character and trace your character. Okay, so this is a list of all the PNGs that relate to this panel 3. All right. Now, I'm speaking to you as professional animators. You should understand what we mean anyway by sequential files, which make up the animation. It's one way of representing the animation, but professionally, this is how we work. It's also how we exchange information between studios. We don't exchange AVIs. We can AVI, but it's huge. Yeah, if you exchange this way, then the files are small and they're accurate because they'll support alpha channels. So I'm using this sequential PNGs because they support alpha and they're also small. They're not heavy, so I can put them online. So you can use that. These are precise. The idea is to trace each one of them on your Harmony timeline. If you do that and add your wardrobe, then you have a full character. So when you look at the folder before this, I'm just clicking back here to Act 2, you can see all these folders contain files that we are working with. Now, if you see, I write on it SS, like P4, 0 to 50 SS. SS means superseded. There can be an issue that comes up. We have to supersede and give a replacement. Sometimes you'll see SS on a file folder. That means that folder is to be ignored because it's been superseded. Okay? Sometimes you can't delete these files. We have to keep them there for auditing purposes. But by indicating that this one is now SS, it means it's not in use. All right. So quite often in these productions, you'll find about 10 folders will be superseded, something like that. Okay, and there's also Act 3. So that's what I'm showing over here under renders. And Alvan just came in. So all I'm doing is I'm inside the NRT production folder. This is the pre-visualized folder with the previous. And there are 3 acts. So there are 3 AVIs, these 3. And I was just looking at the renders subfolder, which has all the individual files. When you go through it, you'll make sense of it. It has the individual AVIs, which were used to make these MP3s, MP4s, and it also has the frames, the individual frames, all of which are more accurate. They're more accurate than this. They're actually more precise than this. Those are the exact frames, but this one is the outcome. Okay. The client is already going through these for purposes of feedback. They're giving us feedback, but these don't have the motion graphics. So I'll need Jake for you to complete the motion graphics, keep them inside here. I'm just going back to the production folder down here. Motion graphics is down here. Put your motion graphics in here. And again, if you organize them in such a way that you have the subfolders for Act 1, 2, and 3, that makes it a no-brainer because we're arranging things according to acts. When you put them this way requires some kind of mapping. Like I have to know conservancy allocation fund pie chart. I have to know where that goes. But if you write a prefix like at 1 P, let's say 21, then I'll know at 1 panel 21. That's not a no-brainer. That's exact. That's how you reference your files. If you write any sentence after that, it's okay. It's added information. But you have to write at 3, comma, P11 or at 1, comma, P6. That's at 1, panel 6. That's precise. Even if you don't write this extra, I'll go to the storyboard, I'll get all the details. So you're mapping your work here to the storyboard. The storyboards are Bible, so you have to, everything maps to the storyboard. Okay? So try and do it that way. And then if you put them in subfolders, it becomes even easier for us. You know, I can even share such folders with clients. This way, it's techie. The client starts seeing this all as tech information. But if we do it the way I've said, it's easy to train the client on exactly that, so they know how to view things and give approvals on things. However, I'm going to pack everything into the previs so that they can use the previsualization to give us feedback on everything in context. Okay, so I need the 3 acts folders here. Okay, under motion graphics, this is speaking to Jake, and then your different motion graphics in there as MP4s. The alternative to MP4s is sequential frames, PNG. PNG because of the transparent backgrounds. Always, it's a universal standard for animation studios to work with PNGs. So maintain. That's the current form that we use. We used to use other forms, but let me just speak to what's current. All right, so do it that way. MP4 is not standard. MP4, I'm just saying do it because it's convenient. We can work with PM4s at low resolution, and we can work low resolution now. But ultimately, we'll need them as sequential PNGs. And ultimately, it's coming because now we're coming to the end of the whole thing. However, we can work with MP4s until everything is approved. Then you go ahead and render sequential PNGs. I hope you understand what I'm getting at, but that's for the motion graphics. I need them as the MP4s complete for purposes of approval. Now, remember, we're talking of work in progress. It's good that you present work in progress. Why? The client weighs in early. If they start weighing in on your final work, it'll put a lot of effort on you now, a lot of work on you to try to implement at the end. You've done a lot of work, then they make changes, you do all that work again. It's good that you provide interim presentations which are not complete. Then they'll weigh in on those not complete bodies of work. And that's good because they can make their changes. And then after that, by the end, what you're producing is acceptable. Okay, so if that's understood, I'd like us to discuss timelines. But before we do the timelines, I'll open it up now for questions, and then I'll ask you to present where you've reached on this so that we're all on the same page. And then I'll also play for you the pre-visualizations. Can I open it up then? Maybe start with Alvan. Where have you reached? What are you doing at the minute, and what's left?
Uh, I'm still drawing the keyframes for Act One. I'm still tracing the characters, the movement of the characters. Okay, in Act One, specifically my character, there's some glitches to it, so I have to think of the actual movement of the character. There are some frames that he's just frozen and not moving.
Okay, all right. Do your best. My advice is to aim to close. When you're working now, don't see yourself in an experimental mode. See yourself as in a finishing mode. So make decisions that will help you to finish. For example, if you see the characters frozen, the most important thing we need from you is, of course, the obvious, which is proportions are correct, the details are consistent, all that. That's obvious. But what we need is the lip synced information because that's not in what's given to you. So focus on the lip syncing because even if all we had was correctly drawn lip synced information, we can make a defense if you have that. If you don't have lip sync information and your drawing is off in terms of consistency and wardrobe problems. So make sure it's consistent, like the animation is flowing, and make sure that the wardrobe is done according to your character model. If that's the case, we can make the case. Okay, but don't. And then of course you lip sync. Don't get caught up in the weeds after that because there's no more time and we have to finish. We only have like a week to start finishing, so we have to finish Act 1 in a week, Act 2 in another week, Act 3 in the last week, 3 weeks. But each act has to be done in a week, and we have to work with that intentionality. Otherwise, we will not make it. Okay. So make decisions that way and don't procrastinate. Just move in a way to close the job. Now, what does it mean to close? It means, of course, you've drawn the line artwork. That's one stage. But line artwork includes the body shape and the lip sync. So let's say you draw the body shape, animate it. You lip sync throughout. Lip syncing includes eyes. Eyes are key. Like you might find your 3D character staring out that way, but you can direct the eyeballs to focus on the subject of the scene. That's what you do in these things. The subject is the person speaking, and everyone else is actually looking at them. If you're looking elsewhere, that's a story issue. Why is that person looking elsewhere? That can be a question. But it should be that they're focusing on the main character. All right. So you direct it that way. And we're all storytellers. So those things are obvious. I don't want to have to explain it too much. But you're now lip syncing. Once that's done, the next step is coloring. Coloring is part of finishing. All right. So what we need from you is colored characters. If your character is interacting with a stick, all these Morans, without exception, Morans, elders, all of them have sticks, without exception. If you don't have sticks, you'll be sent back to the drawing board. Give them sticks. So give them sticks. They don't use them like walking sticks. They don't. They use them like shepherds, the way you can use a stick to guide cattle. So the stick is an instrument for guiding cattle. But they have them all the time. When they're sitting, talking, when they're walking, they have them, even when there's no cattle around. So without exception, they all have a stick. However, because we're human beings, we're all different. The way you interact with your stick is different from how someone else interacts with their stick. Let's exaggerate that so that we can see, okay, this is the character based on how they handle their stick. Okay? So think like that. Then you're thinking like a Moran. The stick is not in the drawings. It's not in the drawings. You have to put them in. But the drawings give you opportunities to include a stick, all right, in a kind of creative way. So you'll get a sense from the movement where the stick can be. Okay. Um, yeah. I'll fun, or let's say Jake. Jake, what can you say about yours? Where have you reached and what's left?
Oh, I've redone the
Mhm.
what is it? The rangeland motion graphic, the one where you told me to concentrate on the right side and focus on the morans and the pasture. I've redone it. I'll upload it, and then I've animated a cow walking. Now I want to put it into the rotational grazing graphics. Yeah. So I'm on the second part of the edits. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. For variation, how do you introduce variation? Because you have like, say 7 cows. Do you have like 2 types of cow walks which you can vary or something? Get them off sync, and then it looks like there are many different cows walking. Do you have enough variation on what you're doing?
No, I only have one cow walk and another one grazing, like focusing on the grass. Yeah,
Okay, it's
but now I
good.
think I'll.
It's good, yeah, because at least you have one. It's more ideal to have variation. So 2 would be nice, but one is good because it's a start, yeah. But you're saying you can try for that, right?
Yeah, but that will definitely take a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, if it will take time, what I'd like all of us to do is make sensible decisions. And the most sensible decision you can make when we're closing a job is to focus on closing. So if it's going to introduce a delay that will extend the deadline, which we can't extend, then I would say then don't do it. You make the decision to close the job, even with that 1 cow, but introduce some variance. I mean, the ways of introducing variance anyway. If you have the 1 cow walk, then you can make it play fast, make it play slow, and suddenly it looks like it's off sync. You can reflect it and things like that. Alfan, yes, go ahead. You have something. I see you put up your hand or something. Or you sent a message. Um, okay. Okay, we'll come to Alfan. But in terms of the rest of the work, you have several motion graphics. Jake, what about the rest of the motion graphics?
Oh, the first one for the graphics for Act One, I've uploaded it,
Yeah.
and then I had pie chart, Act One motion graphics, the rangeland benefits, and then the rotational grazing. So I've done the pie chart. The pie chart is fully done. The Act One, I've already uploaded it. Now I'm waiting for the review, and then for rangeland benefits, I'll upload it as well, and then rotational grazing. So if I finish rotational grazing, I think I'll just be waiting for feedback.
All right.
Yeah.
In terms of timelines, can you aim? It's just a question, but are you able to do this by this weekend?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So when during the weekend? This is how the client wants to work. We're going to meet them on Monday at 4 p.m. And they're saying they'll give us feedback, but they want to see the files prior so that people have a chance to think through the feedback, write it down, and then they can give the feedback on Monday. So that means giving it to them realistically, like let's just say by Saturday. It assumes they're going to work on Sunday. Maybe they'll even work on Monday morning. I don't know. But if you gave it to them by Saturday, then they can work on it Sunday, maybe Monday morning, and then we meet. You see, something like this can be a halfway house. We're compromising. They give us a bit of time to make it. We give them a bit of time to go through it. You see how they're doing it? Mhm.
Okay, but Saturday, probably I could say realistically Sunday. Sunday, like by Sunday afternoon, I'll have sent everything.
Okay, that's fair enough. So aim for Sunday afternoon, let's say evening, so that you have up to evening. But now, the thing I would request is that you send what is ready, even if it's in the previous iteration. At this stage, any feedback will be helpful to you. They have not seen, like, for example, the previous stuff you presented, they have not seen. And we need to package it to show them for feedback on that stuff. So if you can just send whatever is ready and whatever you're working on will be sent later, that's okay. So that we have a full presentation on stuff that is all motion graphics and they can provide the feedback on that. It'll help with closure, okay?
Okay.
And then send it as MP4s. MP4s are not good for keying, but we're not doing keying. So send as MP4s. They're small, shareable, easy to manipulate and stuff, move around, and then that will be great. I want to say something about version managing. It applies to everyone. If you have an animation, let's called, let me call it Act 3, Panel 6 animation. You have that. Then you have a revision of it. What you do is you give the same name, exactly the same name. At the very end, you write V2. V2 means version 2. Professionally, we also write R2. So R2 means revision 2. So that's fine. Then if you have the same thing revised again, you have the same name. But you write at the end dash R3. That's revision 3. And you can keep doing that up to dash R9. But the same base name is what tells us this is the same thing. It's only that it's been revised. We don't tell by looking at it, we tell by reading that file. It's very important. And it's something that defeats artists. If you're an artist coming into animation, this kind of thing I'm talking about is very tough on artists because artists don't think like that. It's more the scientific thinkers that think like that, but not the artists. Artists like to name things in a different way, which is very personalized, but it's not helpful in the technical world. So, technically, we need to name things that are the same way, completely. The only difference is the appendage at the end. That's it, that's all. And it should be intuitive. Either you put a date or you put revision 1, 2, 3, like that. That way it's intuitive. It's a no-brainer. If we all understand that with all our characters, it's very helpful because we generate a lot of similar characters. Clients are going to make, you see, the client has 9 people. And these 9 people look at different things, and they'll all make changes to our characters in different ways. If for any reason something slips under the radar and we don't make that change, they'll send us back to make the change when we have delivered the work. You see, for us, that's starting to open up these things to start rendering again and organizing them again and all that is tough. It's even tougher if we can't find the file. So the way I'm asking you to name them is important, and it's more because of maintaining the production shape than anything else. Okay, I hope it's clear anyway. If you have questions on it, feel free. Alfan, or maybe we're done with Jake, are we? I think so. Alfan, maybe you can tell us if you can speak.
He wrote in the chat.
He can't speak. He says, hello, on my side, I am still tracing the parts which had errors. Then we'll do lip sync. Okay, now, in terms of speaking, we need you to say what's left. So that's what you've done. We need to know what's left to be done, Alfan. We also need to know timelines. We meet the client, let's say, on Monday. And I will be discussing with them the pre-visualizations. That's what we'll be discussing. And if Jake produces his motion graphics, they've asked for those motion graphics. So they're going to discuss them. Their message is in those motion graphics. So they're going to discuss them. So we're discussing those 2 things completely on Monday. However, Thursday, we need to deliver Act 1. Thursday. That means the very next meeting, we're discussing the complete delivery of Act 1. That's what we're doing on Thursday. You see. Now, unless you want to be shocked, you come up with a production at the end, which the client is seeing for the first time. You'll get a lot of changes with minimum time to make corrections. That's what's going to happen. So that's why I'm saying it's very good if you can produce as much as you can up front so that they can make comments on that. And then the final result is not a shock to them. And the feedback is not a shock to you. Okay? The reason why all this other stuff we've done, we've had to do them. I mean, all the way starting with the scripting, we had so many scripts, we had so many, you could say, storyboards, then animatics, then pre-visualization. It started coming. They're going to be many. But the reason for it is that the client is weighing in on these things and they're not getting surprised now. They know that this is the shape of it. This is how it's going. The story is clear to them. You could say, sequencing, the actions and the storytelling visually is clear to them. Now the movement with the pre-visualization is becoming clear to them. They'll give us feedback, but we'll get back to them with another previs as feedback, and it'll be clearer to them. And then will now come your final treatment. But you also don't want your final treatment to go without them weighing in so that you have the versions. Okay? That's how these things end. That's how these things progress. So if you understand that, then you're not going to pull a surprise move. You're going to do it gradually, iteratively up to the end. Okay? So try. And I'm encouraging everyone to come for these meetings. These meetings are not about producing correct work or fantastic work. They're just about revealing what's done, what's not done, so that it's clear and there's no surprise for anyone. The surprises will affect your getting paid. Let's start with that. Client will start a language that we're not paying. That's, you see, then that becomes a shock. But they'll use the fact that your work is not meeting their approval, and they'll feel on the side of Jesus when they're saying that. They'll feel on the side of God because we've asked you to do this according to what we have approved. And if you don't, then they'll feel that, well, why should we pay? That's how these things go. So nobody says those things in the production, but that's the underlying issue. All right. But if we, on the other hand, have approvals from them every step of the way, they can't turn around and start saying something outside the box. Yeah, because we've already gotten approvals and we're basing our final product on these approvals. So you have to pay. And we can even charge you for making a change outside the box. You see, we're on the side of God now. That's how these things go. So, it's very important. There's no, I don't want us to be magicians or magic men, and then we produce a surprise. No, not like that, no. Just do it in a way that we get everyone on board as we go, particularly the client, so that there's approvals all the way. And the client has 9 people they impose on us. So we need those 9 people who are having authority to sign to approve. Okay? So I need this kind of reporting is not sufficient for production line. It needs to tell us. You need to tell us, Alfan, what is left. In terms of characters in Act 2 and Act 3. We also need to know when you're going to finish them. That's important. You have to assign a time to them so that we can cross-check. It's the same for you, Alvan. You need to put time, and we need to know what is left in terms of your character. You need to be an expert on your character. I don't know your characters, but you need to be an expert to say, this is my character. They're in Act 3, and there are 2 scenes where they exist. The total minutes or the total number of frames is 400. I have to draw those, and I can finish that by Tuesday. You have to talk like that. Now you're talking. I will not talk to you much because you've said everything I need to get from you. That's how you speak. Okay? If you don't say it like that, I can't report on when this is finishing. You see? So what I'd say is that we meet again. We can meet again after I've met the client. Let's say on Monday evening. We meet on Monday evening, but now come with that kind of report. What's left? First of all, what's done? Then what's left to be done? And then when you finish it. And in terms of work, there are 3 layers. 1 is the tracing layer, 2 is the lip syncing layer, and 3 is the coloring layer. Those are the 3 levels at which you have to complete the work. There is a compositing that needs to be done. But if you have not composited, that can be delegated to someone else. If you have not, compositing is simply building the scene from the different characters. If you have not done that, that can be given out. All these things you're doing, you put them online so anyone can compose it. Okay? But those are the 4 things to be done. I'll say them one more time. Tracing, that's the rotoscoping. Number 2, lip syncing. That's now your facial expressions. You look at the lips and the eyes. Number 3, coloring. Number 4, scene building. Okay? So that's what it means to do something. And your character particularly is the first 3 items. Okay? So you have to give the activity that's left and the time when they'll be done. Then we can say that it makes sense from a technical perspective. Okay? So I hope it's understood. Yeah, so Afan saying coloring, finishing, tracing, and lip sync. Yeah, again, so these are activities, but there's no time frame on those. And I don't know how many characters. I don't know the load. For example, when you say those things, which characters are those? You need to specify. These are the characters. And on character 1, I've done, let's say, tracing. Character 2, I've done tracing, lip syncing. Character 3, I've done tracing, lip syncing, and coloring. You see, if you say it like that, then I'll be able to know from that what is left of those characters. You see what I mean? Okay? If you show the minutes, then I'll know the load. For example, character 1, let's just say 1 minute. That's 60 seconds. Okay? That's of drawing. So 1 minute, of which you have done, let's say, all of the tracing. All of the tracing. Okay? In character 2, you might have done 50% of the tracing. But they have only 30 minutes or 30 seconds. But you've done 50% of the tracing. And of that, you've done 50% of the lip syncing. You see, again, I have a sense of the load. I hope you understand. If you talk like this, then I can know even your speed of working. I can know. We have to work like this. Otherwise, we don't close. It will not close. The client is expecting that by Thursday we're done with Act 1. The following Thursday, we're done with Act 2, which is less load. Act 2 carries almost 60% of the load of Act 1. You see, it's lighter. And we'll have prior knowledge of Act 1. And then Act 3, similar to Act 2. Similar. But the load is slightly lighter on Act 3 because there's more motion graphics in Act 3. So you find that the amount of animation is less. So again, the load there is less. So let's work like this and also talk like this. If you don't talk to me in a technical way, then you give me problems in trying to assess our production capacity and even what's left. I'll be unable to tell the client dates when we'll finish. But right now, we are working with Thursday next week, Act 1, the following Thursday, Act 2, and the following Thursday after that, Act 3. And that one is when we have fought with the client to expand the time because the client is expecting us to be done as we speak. Anything else you'd like to add? Any comments you'd like to make on based on what I'm saying? I'm now yes, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think from how you put it, I can simply say, yeah, stay in what I've done. Uh, I've only done character one in tracing. For I've covered like 50% of his time. That's 10 seconds. Yeah, that's like for 10 seconds. I've only done the tracing, but I've not done the lip sync and coloring.
Okay. So I think to make it easier, I'll put up a sheet where you'll go in and type in the percentages like I've described so that you can yeah, so that you can type them in and I can get a strong sense of what's left. I'll use your contract to guide it so that you know. All right. I'll do it this evening. But thanks for saying that. Any other thing that you'd like to add? Anyone who wants to say something? Van, if you have something else, you can also say. Anyone else who wants to add something? Okay. If there's nothing, let me end. I'll stop the recording. We can go back on chat and you can always talk to me there. You can also direct message me, but I'll stop the recording.